Welcome to Dalkey in Dublin. I'm here today with Damien Keane, founder and lead designer at Damien Keane Garden Design. I met Damien through one of our clients. We're working on a project together called Albert House in Dalkey. It's a wonderful Georgian property with some beautiful vistas over Dalkey Island, same island we see behind us here today. I'd like to say that Dublin is like this all of the time weather-wise, but I think we've been blessed for our site visit today. Damien, thanks for meeting with me and talking about garden design here in Ireland.
Thank you so much, Brian. It's a pleasure. And as you were saying there, like to get a day like today, I have to say this summer's been good. It's been good for business. When it's sunny, we're busy, and that's what I love to see happening. So yeah, it's absolutely great today. And the view we have behind us, it's pretty close to the view, hopefully. Close enough to the view we'll have hopefully when the garden is complete.
It's almost postcard perfect.
It's just amazing, and I think we kind of underrate our summers a lot here in Ireland.
They certainly seem to be better than they were when I was younger, but it has been a number of years since I left Ireland and moved to London, so maybe I'm missing a trick. Maybe I should be relocating back here as well.
Well, I think we need a lot more Irish people coming back here, I think, to keep things ticking along, to be honest with you. But no, on a day like today, it's great. And I think with the lockdowns and all, with everything that's been going on, and we've had the longest lockdowns in Europe, people are just appreciating the outside space so much more. As I said before we come up to this little park, this is where we have our lunches. You know, myself and the guys will waddle in here some days, come in, have a bit of lunch here on the rocks here, and it's amazing.
It's a wonderful spot.
Beautiful.
And so you mentioned sort of the longest lockdowns, and with people having spent so much time at home, I know it's affected how we plan and design spaces for our clients. You know, the extra demand for secondary playrooms, living rooms, office spaces, converting third and fourth guest bedrooms that weren't being used into more practical uses that they can utilize on a day-to-day basis. You must have seen an impact on how people want to plan and design the garden spaces that they have at home.
Yeah, it's been a massive swing. I think like the use of space now has changed a lot. Whereas before, maybe 3 years ago, you still had your patios and your decking areas in, but definitely people are looking at the garden more from inside out, and want to get out there a lot more and spend a lot more time out there. And it's great on a day like today, but like we've got like 6 months of winter here, and it's wet. It's not cold anymore. It's just wet and miserable. So I think it throws up a lot of kind of conundrums for us as well as garden designers and people that are trying to do something with the outside space. I'm finding that the specific sites are changing a lot. You know, so you can have heavy clays. Drainage can be an issue now that wasn't before. Like flash flooding is becoming quite regular here.
We've seen a lot of that in London recently.
It's crazy.
With whole lower levels of homes completely underwater.
Dundrum Shopping Centre last week flooded. You know, it's been mad. So it's been COVID for us in some ways, it's terrible to say, has been quite good for garden design because people are looking at their outside space a lot more than they previously did, and it's really starting to become part of the interior, I think, as well.
So that whole indoor-outdoor living experience where they want to have the rear elevation opened up. To imagine the indoor-outdoor dining experience, entertaining space, having kids flow and run in and out with flush thresholds from the indoor and outdoor spaces is important.
And once I noticed bifolding doors going in or glazed walls going in, that's music to my ears. Because and you also have to think about as well, when it's not like this and it's the middle of a miserable November, what I like to do as well, and I think it really helps, and we're doing it a lot more, we're creating focal points in the garden, well lit up areas in the garden that you won't go out to because the weather's so bad, but just I'm almost creating pictures outside as well, so when you're inside you can enjoy those views as well. And we discussed lighting up on the job there. It's like it's becoming such a major part of what we do now.
It's one of my pet peeves is you put in all of this glazing and you invest into the garden design, and a client then doesn't invest into the lighting, and all that happens is you create this black mirror effect. At night time you're sitting in your beautiful living room or your drawing room or your kitchen, and you're just looking at yourself on a glass wall because it's brighter inside than it is outside, so it's just a mirror effect. Whereas if you're investing into the lighting and planning that early on, when you're doing the garden design, you have those focal points of interest that draw your eye out at different times of the day, and it really, day and night, can double or triple the size of the living space you feel that you actually have when you're within the space.
I think a lot of it kind of arcs back to the because usually landscapers are the last, because I run a landscape design company and we do the aftercare as well, and I think a lot of it happens before we would have been brought in halfway through it. But I've projects now, we've built the gardens even before the architect is brought on board. You know, we're looking at the spaces more now.
Similar to what you did at Albert House here, you had already started on some of the boundary planting before planning had even come through, because we knew that was such an important element from a privacy aspect for the client. That
Yeah.
every season that passes,
Yeah.
you get advantage of the growth.
Yep. And I would say from the landscaping point of view, allow for cabling in the garden.
Yeah.
Even if you're not going to go with the lights, allow for extra drainage as part of the initial budget. It's really, really important. And even if it takes 5 years before you put your fittings in or whatever, it is a nightmare going back, because we've gardeners as well working for us. And it is a nightmare going back 2 or 3 years later to put in ducting or bring out wiring from houses and all. It's a real nightmare, especially with the new smart systems as well, lighting design systems. You want that integrated from day one if you can,
And with clients, and maybe clients of a particular generation, investing into garden design and landscape design, do you come across the same kind of problems we do with some of our interior clients, where they've had maybe a bad experience with home automation or smart home technology in the last 10 or 15 years, and it has sort of left them with a bad aftertaste in the mouth, and they're hesitant to go on that same journey again? We have to show them examples of how technology has changed and how reliable it is. Has garden design, landscape design, and the materials that are used outside changed to the same sort of level, where problems that they would have had historically with drainage or materials not being robust, or the design or the planning of outdoor spaces wouldn't have worked for their function?
Massively, and even like when we do drainage now, we try and conform more to the SUDs, to the British standards, and it's going to come in here as well, where the water should be allowed to disperse throughout the site. But to do that, you need good ground drainage there first. So it's really, really important that you look at an overall picture. And even like you mentioned decking now, people go, oh my God, no. But like we put in aluminium composite timbers now, that are 95% made from 95% recyclable material. So there's so much more available now. As you say, much more robust materials available. I think a lot of it has to do with planning, and a lot of it has to do with the client trusting you enough as well to try something different, But
and I guess they come to you because of your experience and your reputation. I would imagine a lot of it is word of mouth and referral based.
Yeah, it is. It is. We have some clients going back 15 and 20 years, So you do multiple houses, multiple gardens. Yeah, it's mostly word of mouth. It really is. And Ireland, Dublin especially, is such a small area. It's really good to kind of keep your name out there. And generally, I think probably what sells us the best would probably be just bringing clients into 1 or 2 gardens. Let them meet 1 or 2 clients. And I would advise any clients anywhere in the world, that's what they should do. Whether they're taking on a garden designer or an architect or whatever.
An interior designer,
Yeah, it's really important to see the work, physically see the work, and see how they interact with other clients as well.
I think that's one of the things that we do very early on in our design process, or when we're talking to a client about being engaged to work on a project for them. We'll have our discovery calls. I may have done a site visit, but before we move any further, I want them to talk to maybe a past and an existing client.
Yeah.
And the reason for the existing is to be able to verify that the quality of work and the service that we delivered on the past client wasn't an anomaly and a one-off, and we're still continuing to produce the same quality of work. And I think that's really important, because then when you start getting into the negotiations and talking about contracts and fee proposals, it's important that they feel like they're going to get the same service that other people have experienced.
I think it's great you say current clients as well, because it's great to show a client, for us, a garden that's maybe halfway through. Because if you see the mess in some of the places, you're just going, oh my God, will this ever look the way it's going to look in the plan? But it's important they see that and then come back maybe before they start their project with us, and they can see the finished product as well. It's really, really important, because with climatic changes now, there's so much more money being spent below ground. There's massive amount of budget goes now on drainage and on, circuitry for security and all this. It's
infrastructure.
It's really gone really strange, And it's actually going back to maybe the technology with drainage especially is going back 50, 60 years to soak holes being dug now. It's changed an awful lot, And it goes without saying, it's the same with planting as well. We have to be much more site specific with the planting we're using. People are saying,
the weather is changing so dramatically. For example, this project here is really exposed in the winter months and takes quite a battering. So I guess you need to be very aware and informed of how the climate is changing.
And we even spoke about it up there as well in the house, that the front is much more exposed, so that's more of a summery garden, more of a cottagey, like lots of colours and much more in keeping with the maritime conditions. But at the back we can do a little bit more. It's a little bit more sheltered. We can have more of an autumn winter vibe going on, like that, richer colours, and and I think that's important with a garden as well. I always try and like to create not rooms as such, but just create that flow and ebb. So certain things, maybe like the paving, will balance the front and back, but it's nice just to have different areas as well, and niches as well are really important, especially here, because it's lovely today. It's not lovely middle of December, I can tell you.
And I think, talking about middle of December, and I know we discussed it when we had a walk around site earlier, awareness of things like the sea salt and how it erodes and sort of can damage the material. So having a designer or an architect that is experienced in working in different locations, not just inland, but on oceanfront or seafront properties, really pays dividends for a client.
Yeah, it's really important. Like, as in, like, we use a lot of Core 10 now close to the sea. We're actually designing a garden room right on the sea for next year. And if done correctly, it will be amazing. But if we skimp or we leave something out to do with the construction of this, you're in trouble like that, you know. And I hate things anything slightly going wrong really irritates me like that, you know. And I'm blessed to have an amazing team around me on the ground and back in the office that, like, you know, we really put the effort into that stage. I often think when we actually start a garden, that's the easy part. It's all the before work. I'm sure you find the same thing. It's all this design and research, and can this guy do that? Can we get that right? I think that's actually the hard part, you know.
And talking about the design process and sort of the earlier stages of a project, it's always interesting to hear how other designers and architects approach the design process. I know for me, I'll take a design brief and it's very loose at the start because I don't want the clients to influence the creative process for me, because they're going to pay me a fee to do the design work. They might as well get my original design to start, and then if they want to influence it with their mood boards or their Pinterest boards and imagery, then obviously we go that route. Do you try and isolate yourself early on in the process, or do you, how do you work?
It's really strange, and I've had this conversation with graphic designers and architects in the past. It's hard to explain, but generally what I do is I like to meet the clients first on site, outside, and I just get a vibe for the place and what I think I could do with it, and then I'll have a chat with the client. I don't let the client's kind of opinions jar too much, but I will take on board kind of what they're looking for, like that.
Yeah, whether it's entertaining spaces, lounge spaces, kids for playing, lawns.
And it's strange, but I think we're probably all born with something, and from, it's a kind of a blurred image that appears then in my head, so I don't really do mood boards and stuff, and then I'll just start scribbling away mad at home, usually coffee and silence, that's all I need
so you're
to get started.
A crazy psychic
exactly,
sitting there
and if I can start
conjuring up this image and it just lands on a paper in front of you.
That's the way it is, and if I can start that at 5:30, 6 in the morning, I have no idea. The wife makes it for me.
Oh, great.
Maybe I shouldn't say that, but like,
fine.
But it's really weird.
I'm coming around in the morning and I'll blast through some of my designs.
But it's really weird. But that's the way I've always worked. See, I'm not classically trained, say, in university to do design. I went to horticultural college. No, I didn't actually realise that point.
Just happened into design.
It just happened into design, and I'm exactly the same. So I think everyone has a different approach to it. And whereas before I was thinking, oh my God, I'll have to do mood boards, I'll have to do this, I really only do those just to show the client what it might look like, you know, with editing and stuff. And by and large, 90% of the time, I kind of get it close enough to what they're looking for, and then we might have to tweak something like move a patio or. But like, usually that's the way it kind of works. So people, if they've seen my work before, I met my clients, they'll get the kind of style we use. And I love messing around with different styles. You know, I love modern, contemporary, and traditional. As long as I can mass plant, I'm happy. Just let me get at the planting, and I'm okay like that.
You're not a big fan of the sort of very minimalist, massively hardscaped
I
projects.
really like it if it's Zen style. I like it if it's Japanese style. I really love that. Like, say this big piece of granite we're sitting on. I love that. But I think it should be like escapism for me. An outside space is just to get out there and you're going, oh wow, this is something else.
It needs to feel like a series of rooms.
Yeah.
And it needs to be an extension to the property. And in our designs, we have a lot of clients who just like everything to be brand new and sparkly and shiny, but whether it is an accessory, a lamp that we've picked up at an auction, if it's old artwork and old frames, just having something old to bring it in to the property makes a big difference.
And I think in Albert House, the project we're working together, I think that's really important there as well, because it is an older house, that we have to kind of make sure that
I've got two very old items for the property. The clients will be watching this. They may kill me afterwards, but that'll bring enough mix into the project.
Well, it's usually me putting my foot in it, so I'm glad it's you today. That's all I'm going to say. Man.
Sorry.
And the other rule I have, especially with these older properties as well, it's because it comes from my dad and doing working in big old garden estates. That's where I started. The further we get away from the house, usually the more rustic I like to go with the planting, and so
a little wilder.
Yeah. I think it works really well like that. You know, so it's more the high care area should always be close to the house and around the paving areas and the dining areas. But generally, the further we go back, I'd always try and naturalise as much as I can. You know, and we're starting to use a much more native species as well for that. You know, of trees like birch and pine and heather again, and they stand up very well to the climatic shift that we're having. You know, because we're getting these droughts in the summer, which is great, but then we're getting like a week of heavy rain. You know, so you're putting in olive. If olive trees are going in, it has to be a well-drained site. You know, so you've got to be very careful. That's why the front of Albert House is great. It's on such a slant. You know, that is amazing for the planting we're going to do there, you know.
And so we've spoken about sort of the design process, initial consultations, meetings with the clients, taking a brief, and then the install, getting the infrastructure right, choosing the right plants and planting it. For you, long term, the garden is just in its infancy in the first couple of years. What's your involvement with the garden and with the clients thereafter?
Well, I was trained originally as a gardener, and my dad was a head gardener as well, and I always thought I'd end up running some old garden estate in the middle of nowhere and getting a bit weird like he has. But that didn't really happen, so I'm just getting a bit weird out here with you guys. Like, so it's
fine. I mean, we've got the perfect setting to do it. Should have brought a drink with us.
You can get some of my coffee later if you want. But no, it's I love gardening. I absolutely love it. I love looking after things. I find it just calms. I just love the calming effect of it. So I've trained gardeners that I've trained myself, and we put through college, and those guys take over like a services manager.
Okay.
And the golden rule is little and often with garden aftercare. Plus as well, I suppose what differentiates what I do to what you do, outside it's like this ever living changeable picture, because things grow, some things don't grow, sometimes I don't get it right, you know, plants will go off, we'll get like an early frost and things will get knocked down. So really the aftercare is as important sometimes as the initial design. And I find, it's terrible to say, but I find a lot of Irish now, it used to be really bad in the past, people would not spend on aftercare. They're starting to get the idea
once
now.
Once a season, they'd have someone come out, trim, scalp them, as you were saying earlier on. Yeah, it's very different.
Yeah, and I think it's long term, it's actually more cost effective to say have a gardener in for an hour a week or 2 hours a week looking after something, that it doesn't turn into this like 3 times a year and you just come in, you prune the hell out of everything like that. You know, it can be a nightmare. Plus as well, it allows me to tweak. If I'm in a bit or my gardeners are in a bit, we can tweak things as well. You know, so we can just make sure that's okay, maybe get to that before it becomes an issue. We check all drainage as well, you know, because by and large, we would have done all the landscaping as well. So we kind of know where the problem areas could be regarding water and stuff.
It's actually more similar than you think to interiors. So we stay on as part of the maintenance team for most of our projects, just to make sure that everything is serviced, the software is updated on the home automation, AV systems, that everything is getting, whether it's the water filtration or whatever modern technology that they've installed, that it's just being maintained well. But we've noticed, especially in the last 18 months during COVID and the pandemic, a lot of clients are utilizing our maintenance service to make changes. The kids are getting older. They no longer like the spacemen on the wallpaper that we have. They want to upgrade it. They want to adjust it to be in line with what the kids are interested in now. The guest bedrooms have become home offices or gyms. So it's, again, evolving with how the family evolves and how it changes. And I think it's the same as the garden, sort of the use of the space will change depending on how the garden develops and how they develop as a family. And we see that some clients come back 15, 20 years, and it's so strange to see like things would have been changed and edited, and then things go in and out of style as well. Like, you know, it's really, really kind of, it just moves with things. For me, it's getting the core planting and the core construction right, you know, so a drive should never change really, and main patio shouldn't change either. That's what we'd hope for anyway. As long as it's maintained.
But editing is really, really important for me. You know, and even some of the gardens I design, like the old way was you'd have to wait 5 to 8 years generally in what I do to see the kind of fruits of your money as a client investing. But now we're bringing in like mature pine trees at like 10 meters tall. It's
how
changed
old
a
are
lot.
they at that age?
Some of the trees 50, 60 years plus they were using, and then there's some that might be 10, 15 years, and in smaller spaces they work really, really well like that. So it's and again, if you're going to invest in anything, I should probably, like, I love plants, so I would invest in a tree or you know, an old gnarled olive or something like that. Just something that would give it some oomph really, and just add that
into
the
adds maturity, and it doesn't look like it's a new garden plucked and just dropped onto the site. You can buy instant age, really.
And really,
whereas we as humans try to turn back in time.
It's the total opposite.
The opposite
like,
for the gardens.
And it's, for me, it's all about softening as well. You know, that I have to soften like the boundary and stuff, and the house as well. Sometimes as well, we have to do a lot to kind of make sure it looks, especially with Albert House, because it is an old house. So we want modern technology, we want modern areas within it, outside and inside. But it's just to make it look like that it's nestled in something, you know, that the planting comes in around it as well like that, you know. So, and again, the clients have been great, you know, I've had all the feedback I've needed to do my job as well like that, you know. So as I was saying, I'm hoping when we do start, it's easy, you know. Once the effort goes into all this, it's relatively easy after that. Like,
and looking at you, it's hard to believe you've been doing it for 15 or 20 years. But you must have some funny or unusual stories.
I have some strange ones, all right. Probably, I don't even think we should talk about it on YouTube, to be honest with you. There's been a few strange ones. a few ones that I very seldom, as you can probably tell,
Yeah.
would get tongue-tied.
Yeah.
So a few years ago, Bianca, my wife, was invited to exhibit her glass art at Chelsea Flower Show. So we went over about a month before, and I had plans ready for Tatton Park. So I walked in, and you know, it's just lovely big offices and stuff like this. There's 3 or 4 judges there, and we were chatting about what we'd like to do with Tatton Park. And I was thinking, there's no way I'm going to get a chance at this. You know, I don't know who I am, whatever. So I put the plan on the table, and the head guy just turned and he says, "Yeah, that's for us." Perfect.
Yeah.
And the initial, that was the go ahead.
That was it, done.
I was gone.
Yeah.
And then he said, "Have you any other ideas?" And I said, "Yeah." And I showed him this plan I've been working on the train, and he initialed that. "You get the sponsor for that, and we'll try and push you through here as well, get you through on this. You know, we'll go through the system as well."
Yeah.
I didn't know what to say. I was actually tongue-tied, and to this day, Bianca still messes about that. I was just, it was woeful like that.
Yeah.
That was one of the
Never stuck for words.
the weirdest. And then when we did the stand for Bianca, it was in the fresh area at the time. It was quite embarrassing actually. 3 judges actually tried to judge it as a garden.
Oh, really?
It was a commercial stand, and we trying to explain to them, no, it was
Calm
like,
down.
sorry,
Yeah.
you know. And the really weird part of this story is that we got accepted into Tatton Park, and it was a big garden. We were going to do it, and it was a number of years ago, and I just could not get sponsorship.
Yeah.
And when I look back now, you know, look back things in life, it was the best thing that ever happened because we got our house.
Yeah.
I managed to build up an
Happens for a
amazing
reason.
team around me, and you know, and I realised I did not want to lose a year of my life to go and do something like that, you know. But it's strange the way things kind of move in your life as well, and in your career as well. I'm sure you've come across it as well. You know, sometimes
it's always evolving, and, and everything happens for a reason. Sometimes you're very close to a project happening, and it doesn't come to fruition for whatever reason. Something else always falls into its place. I think as long as you're continuously putting yourself out there, staying connected to your network, doing your business development, and just delivering the best version of yourself and your projects to your clients, there's always new business and new referrals out there.
It's really good. And I'm good at talking. I actually managed to...
You're Irish.
I'm Irish, yeah. And I'm a gardener as well, so we survived through like getting like, well, we can do this, we can do that. Actually, I think a lot of people put so much trust in what we do. Because
Stay away from the interior.
no.
I won't tread on your toes, you don't tread on mine, and we'll be fine.
But if you think about it, like, they trust us to plant something that is going to grow, that is going to give privacy, that is can do all this. Clients take a huge risk with us. But the funniest story of all, and my foreman Martin was there at the time, I actually talked a structural engineer into believing I could make water go uphill. No word of a lie. When you speak to Martin, he will verify this. He'll clarify this.
No pumps.
It was amazing, like, you know. So it was good, yeah. So yeah, it was. So there's been a few things like that as well on site. You find on site so many things kind of go wrong sometimes as well, like that, you know. And you just have to be around and make sure you put them right, or you know, things. Human nature, mistakes are made like that. So they can be the funniest things as well, like that. You know, that you try and fix and you get it right in the end, like that. But yeah, there's been some strange ones over the years.
Well, I'm looking forward to sort of an exceptional morning in a couple of days' time when I get to see some of your work in person. Some of the gardens that you have completed, and some that are in progress, I believe, as well.
Yeah.
And we'll show some of your finished images during the course of this video, and we'll have updates through the next 12 months on Albert House.
I'm looking forward to it.
But thank you for your time today.
Thank you
for finding this amazing spot.
Yeah.
Next time, please bring the wine.
Yeah, and the sambos.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.